This week is building to a fever pitch in you receiving the intellect and the wisdom you need. Today we talk about Woden. Now, Woden is, of course, the Germanic version of what we would later know as Ódinn, the chief of the Aesir gods. Today, before we get started, as always, I want to call out New Reality TV. Wonderful collection of different perspectives of our spiritual journey that can help each and every one of us find that piece of intellect that we were looking for, to fill in the gaps, to fill in any holes we might have in our understanding, but also to expand our understanding and see the world of spirituality through a different perspective. As always, I want to call out my good friends at Far North Tinctures, Norse Imports, and of course Mountain Rose Herbs. For their links and information more about them, you can visit my website at akulfhefner.com. Today we're talking about the wisdom of Woden. Woden. The names are interchangeable, as we see in the historical record, as particularly my ancestors, the Danes, migrated north through Germania, across the Elbe River, into the Jutland of Denmark. We find Woden morphing into who became known as Ódinn. In all of the stories we have about Woden and Ódinn, we find them in a constant quest for wisdom. So much so that Woden would visit with the Norner sisters at the Well of Erd. He would surrender one of his eyes, his physical eyes, that he may have a drink from, of course, the Well of Erd, which, as we all know, held one of the roots of Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil, of course, being the center tree of life, flowed information about all of existence. Every living thing that had ever been or ever will be is connected to Yggdrasil, this large yew tree in the middle of all of existence. Ódinn actively sought wisdom. And this brings to mind the idea that it is the active pursuit of wisdom that would lead Ódinn to this Well of Erd. The active seeking of wisdom. He didn't wait for it to appear. He didn't hope that it showed up. He actively sought. We also read about Ódinn where he wanted to know more about the runes, and so he impaled himself on his spear Gungnir, where he hung from Yggdrasil for 9 days and 9 nights, that he may see and understand the magic of the runes. Breaking that story down, we find that Ódinn was willing to endure this incredible pain, I would imagine, not to mention going without food and water for 9 days and 9 nights, that he would see this magic contained within the runes. Now, magic within the runes we know are several iterations of what's called the Futhark alphabet. And so we have the Elder Futhark, which is the one I use commonly. The Younger Futhark. We have the Anglo-Saxon Futhark. And these are simply an alphabet used for writing. Now, in much the same way that today we have different alphabets to represent the language of an area, so too did the runes represent letters of an alphabet to those Germanic people. There are 24 characters within the Elder Futhark runes, and they are simply letters. Now, each letter in the runes has a different energy, much the same way that we have these letters building words today in our alphabet. It is no coincidence that putting these letters, these characters together to form words is called spelling. Spelling, simply the casting of spells. Putting together these letters in such a way to form words is a way of joining their energies together in such a way to produce some form of output. When we think of words and we think of speaking these words, we are essentially casting these spells or these energies out to those who hear us. In the writing of these letters, we find that in much the same way we are conveying ideas and thoughts and hopes and dreams in our writing, that others may absorb that energy when they read it, right? So this is the idea of authoring books or putting together a presentation, right? So we're conveying ideas. This is a magic. This is the magic that Ódinn sought to understand. In his case, because Freya had already instructed him in the ways of magic, the power of the runes became apparent to him. However, we need to understand, when it came to Ódinn understanding the runes, that he was willing to sacrifice himself. He impaled himself on a tree and hung there for 9 days and 9 nights with no food, no water, that he may understand the power of the word, the power of each letter within a word, within a paragraph, within a conveyed idea or thought. This is very powerful. In much the same way we find today, for those of you who have engaged upon this activity called journaling, a wonderful, wonderful exercise where we are putting our ideas and our thoughts on paper that we may review it in the future. We can see, whatever was going on in our mind at the time. If we are able to get it on paper, we can review it with a different perspective. Because remember, every moment our aura is changing. Our aura and our frequency on that border is changing due to our emotional state. This means that our emotional filters are being set, and we're interpreting everything we ingest energy-wise through those filters is manipulated in a different way. This is very important to understand and to know, because we may have a thought on one day that we're sad. The thought goes through our emotional filters down to the paper where we're writing or typing. And several days later, we review the same thought written down, and it has a different meaning altogether. Or we're reminded of our thoughts before. This is the energy of the runes, of the letters, of the words. This is how we're putting together these thoughts and ideas and hopes, desires, dreams, that we may see them. This is also for those of you who use affirmations, daily affirmations, maybe even time of day affirmations. This is how and why they work, right? Is that their ideas, concepts, principles, whatever, that we're putting down on this piece of paper, and we're viewing them. We're taking in that magic of energy through our physical sensory input from a different emotional state every time we look at it, right? And so sometimes it's really, I can't wait to do this, or whatever it is. Other days it's okay. Other days we may feel as if that's a dream, never going to happen, right? This is why we're looking at that affirmation through different emotional filters set behind our physical sensory input. And we have a unique opportunity to say, no, it's not a never going to happen dream. It's going to happen, right? So I can change my perspective. I can change my direction within my thought process. This is the important, exciting part of actively seeking, is that we can choose to seek. We can choose to actively engage in a search for wisdom or whatever, following your affirmation. Our brain says, no, I don't want to believe that today. We say, no, we do believe that today. We do believe it. Change our heart. We bring things into alignment. But the way our emotional filters are set each minute of every day, we may have to keep bringing it back on point. And that's what we're teaching our brain by using these daily affirmations. Okay? That's why they're so important. There's magical properties to letters and the collection of letters into words. Maybe not to manifest things physically right in our hand at the moment, but to manifest things in our lives based on what we want, our hopes, our dreams, right? So that's the power of manifestation through affirmations. Many times when we think about the power of the runes as an example, and we're doing, say, we're calling to the gods or to the ancestors, and we're inquiring about them using a skill called divination. And what divination is the ancestors and the gods know the energy around each rune, each letter within the rune. And when we bring up the rune tile, it is the gods telling us that this is the energy that is being conveyed. They are choosing the word they use by choosing the rune. Many people have said, oh, but it's just a randomness of the, pulling letters out of the bag and putting the letters in this particular order. If you take away for a moment this idea of a randomness, and we say when you reach into the bag and you're digging around, you're looking for a rune tile, or you're feeling for a rune tile, firstly and foremost, in my case, I feel for the runes, but I feel differently when I stumble upon a rune that the gods are telling me to select. First key there is that I feel a little energy differences between all the other runes and the rune that the gods want me to draw. I then draw the rune and I place it face down. And meantime, I'm still focusing on my question. So I'm really focusing my mind. I'm actively containing my question, my inquiry. I lay the rune face down on my cloth that the gods and the ancestors may know of maybe additional information that I left out when I was first asking the question. And so they're still culminating a little bit. They're still fixing. And so the probability of that rune being whatever it is fairly unique. But the probability of that rune changing when it's face down is as probable as anything else. This is the manipulation of the deities. The ancestors have provided their wisdom, and now the gods will offer theirs. The gods, of course, being a larger collection of energy, of universal energy. Once the rune is turned over, the rune tile is turned over, and we experience the rune contained therein. Once we experience it, it's moved from the future to the past, right? It kind of hops over our present and goes from an experience we haven't had to an experience we have
Whose
had.
contact info are you looking for?
So, the key to the power of the rune being what it is purely in the gods and the ancestors' hands. As they select these different runes to represent different parts of our life, maybe one rune is our past, and another rune represents the current struggles we're having. Another rune altogether maybe showing us our future. All of these coming together to provide us with some message, with some futuristic understanding of where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going. Super, super valuable in our trajectory, along our path in life. Woden sought this knowledge. And again, going back to, he actively sought. In other words, he didn't eliminate by choice some knowledge to others. He was open to knowledge. He allowed his mind to be vulnerable and open to all these different perspectives, all these different understandings, all these different views, and thereby afforded himself the opportunity at which to grow beyond our wildest imaginations. When we close our minds to something, we reduce the potential of our fully understanding our journey, our trip. It would be very akin to driving your car down the road after a snowstorm and having just your driver's window clear enough to see. The passenger side window is still covered in snow. Your side windows are covered in snow, and your back window is covered in snow. Much the same way, when we close our mind to certain probabilities and certain understandings, we limit our potential. Which is why today and every day, I thank the gods for New Reality TV. New Reality TV brings these many different perspectives together under a singular roof and allows us this opportunity to see all these different perspectives and these different understandings, allowing us to further expand our understanding. For if we are to see the mountain of spirituality that lies before us, when we are forcefully sitting in a forest, we see only portions of that beautiful mountain. But as we are able to get to a clearing in our lives and able to gaze upon the mountain, now we see the entirety of that mountain. We see the majesty, the just the beauty of the whole mountain. This is the same for our journey into our spiritual future, along our spiritual path. For as we clear away the trees and we stop saying they're wrong and they're not right and they're not accurate and they're not this and they're not that, we realize that each of their perspectives is just that. It's their perspective, their understanding. No more wrong than anything else. No more right than anything else. Their understanding doesn't trump our understanding. It's just different. And maybe when we're willing to listen to their perspectives, our perspective becomes larger, more encompassing. And this is really the advantage that I have of being associated with a wonderful group of people like New Reality TV. They have brought this whole mountain together in a streaming channel that we can subscribe to, download to all these different perspectives to increase our own understanding, to increase our own perspective, and to help us actively seek wisdom, much like Woden did. So, actively seeking wisdom means not closing any doors. It means not shunning any perspective because you've been told to do that or because of whatever. When we open our minds to all these different perspectives, we're able to get a much larger view of our own spiritual understanding. Okay? So it's like as we're going through our path and we're deep in the forest, and the trees are blocking much of the sunlight and most of our view. But through the trees up in front of us, we can see an opening. We can see where the trees fall away. And so we soldier through to achieve this opening, this meadow. And as we step from the trees, beyond the meadow lies this mountain. The mountain that takes up all of our view towards the front. We see this beautiful mountain with its sloping hills, and it's just radiant in the sunlight. This, my friend, is our spiritual path, our spiritual journey, leading us to a place where we can step free of all these trees that we've put up and we've planted, or others. Sometimes others put these trees up here. But when we get to the meadow and we can see beyond the meadow to the mountain that rises into the sun, this, my friend, is our spiritual journey, our spiritual path. All right? And we're all on a different path. We all see different groups of trees around us. We all see a very different pathway in front of us to walk upon, to all get to this meadow. No one's more right or wrong than anyone else. We're all in our own path, our own moving through the trees to get to the meadow. This is our spiritual understanding. This is actively seeking to understand. Well, today, my friends, it is Woden's Day. It is a celebration of wisdom and actively seeking that wisdom that we may grow and blossom. So I hope that you will use today to grow your wisdom. Be sure to join us this evening when we answer more questions from our message box, and hopefully it'll be your question, because if we make a show about your questions, of course, we'll get a t-shirt and we'll mail it out to you right away. So visit our website, akolfhefnar.com. Submit your question at the bottom to the left, and we will get you a shirt if we make a show from your question. All right? I wish you the very best Woden's Day. Love and light to all of you. May all your dreams come true. Be well, my friends.